Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I like having really nicely painted miniatures, but I will settle for painted miniatures, and when it comes to terrain, you usually end up with lots of large elements that you need to paint, and it can get a little bit boring, a little bit repetitive, so I like to look for the quickest, dirtiest ways possible to paint terrain, and today I'm going to show you some really quick ways that I have painted some walls and fences. We are starting with this wall, which is a Games Workshop wall from the old Fortified manor set, and we are applying Nuln Oil over a spray of uniform grey. That's an army painter uniform grey, so no other painting involved there. If you haven't got a coloured spray primer, you can use Mechanica Standard Grey over Chaos Black. And when the Nuln Oil is completely dry, I'm just going to do a really heavy Ulthuan Grey dry brush. I'm going to build it up over a couple of dry brushes. Just really going to pick out those edges. It's going to be sort of like a quite high contrast thing, so you've got really dark shading and then the really bright highlights. And I'm going over the whole thing. And that is pretty much going to finish this wall off. It's going to be that quick, that simple. We're just going to do a few extra details on the grass and the tombstone, because as you can see, Games Workshop slipped in a sneaky skull even on this wall because they can't help themselves. We're going to deal with that using white scar, and again we're just dry brushing, and I'm dry brushing in circular motions. I'm using a smaller dry brush this time so as not to go over the wall and everything else, but just using circular motions, making sure I don't go all the way down to the bottom so we get a nice gradation from the darker grey to the lighter grey. And that will finish that. And then we're going to do the grass, so we're going to use a dark Greenskin. We're going to layer that all over, 2 coats will do that. And you can use any dark green you have. I'm using Army Painter stuff here, but you don't have to. And then we're going to do an Agrax Earthshade wash over the whole thing. That's just going to go into the recesses, pick out the details, make it look like there is earth between the blades of grass as well. And we just have to be careful not to get it on any of the grey stuff that we've already painted. But we do want to get it right up to the base of the wall. And then I'm going to use Goblin Green, and I'm just going to do a dry brush highlight over the grass with Goblin Green. And again, you can use any light green that you have available. And that's actually going to finish this piece. That piece is completely done. Very quick, very simple. So we're going to move on to another example where I've already done the wall. And again, that was just Army Painter Spray, Nuln Oil highlight. We're going to do the fence here. We're going to start with leather brown. We're going to apply a coat of leather brown. 2 coats, in fact, 2 thin coats to get a nice coverage of leather brown. You just have to make sure you get into all of the little spaces because you don't want any of your undercoat showing through. And of course, when you get to the edges, you need to be careful not to go over the wall that you have already painted. I'm then using Agrax Earthshade just to do the shading and the definition. Again, we don't want to get it over the walls, but we want to make sure we've got a good coating over the whole thing. And then I'm switching to Monster Brown, and I'm just going to do a highlight of Monster Brown over all of that wood. And then that's going to finish that fence. Apart from there's some little metal hooks on the posts that are going to get done with Leadbelcher and then a little Nuln Oil just to give them some definition. Finally, we're going to do this woven wicker fence. So again, we have spray painted with Army Painter Uniform Grey for the base coat. And then we're going to apply Averland Sunset. We don't need to be too careful about this, but we're just going to make sure we get a good coat. One may do it, but you may need a second coat if you're a little bit patchy. It doesn't matter too much if it's patchy because of what we're going to do with it afterwards. But just make sure you've covered the whole thing and there's no grey showing. We're then using Agrax Earthshade. Because, you know, it's Agrax Earthshade. You use it for everything. And we're just going to slop that on. Again, we don't need to worry too much about pooling. We don't need to worry about being neat. We just need to make sure that we've got a coating over the whole thing. And when it's dry, I've got to say, Agrax Earthshade over Averland Sunset looks great. We're now switching to Skeleton Bone, and we're going to do a heavy dry brush over the whole thing. Just going to build up that colour, lighten it up. Obviously, the dark areas will stay dark because of the dry brushing process. And that will basically finish that wicker fence. Very quick, very, very easy. And it means you can get this stuff done in a matter of minutes. You spend more time waiting for washes to dry than you do actually painting anything. We're just going to do the tree next to it. So we're going to do an oak brown base coat. You can see that I've already done the rock and the little chain morning star hanging off of it. You may need 2 coats of this, and any dark brown will do. And then of course we're going to use Agrax Earthshade, because why not? We're going to give the tree a coat of that, making sure we do not go over the fence or anything else that we have already painted. And then we're going to switch to Monster Brown, and we're just going to do a dry brush over the whole thing. And then once that is done, we just need to do the grass around the base again, the same way as we did on the other walls. And that is the whole thing done, and that is the finished result. As you can see, very quick, very easy. If you've got a lot of walls and fences and stuff, it's really not interesting to paint that sort of thing, especially in bulk. So this is a really good way to get stuff looking good on the tabletop really, really quickly. I hope you have found the video useful. I appreciate it's not the most in-depth type of painting, and I'm sure many of you would already know how to do this. But thank you so much for watching. If you've liked the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really liked the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.